My old walk cycle tutorial has gotten pretty old and was very brief, so here's an updated version. First, you need to figure out where exactly the ground is by drawing in some guidelines. This can be one line for each foot to show the path they will follow as they slide back on the ground, preventing them from wobbling around, as well as making it easier to match the perspective with any background environment you might be using. The next step is drawing the keyframes, or in other words, creating a choppy version of the animation that you can fill in the gaps of afterwards. The frame I like to start with is when the head has reached its highest point in the cycle, the same height it would be at if the person were standing in place. One leg is on the ground, directly underneath the body, and the other is lifted and passing that leg by. The arms are both mid-swing, so they'll be at the sides of the body. At a front view, you can see that the leg on the ground is pushing the hip upward, resulting in this tilt. Also, at this angle, you want to be sure that you draw the body symmetrical and as perfectly upright as possible. Either use a symmetry tool or a center guideline to prevent any accidental lean or unevenness, because that would cause problems later. In the next keyframe, the arms are fully swung out, and the upper body is now twisting slightly. The shoulder of the forward swinging arm can appear raised due to it twisting forward with the arm, and the other shoulder does the opposite, twisting back. The head is now at its lowest point, and that's because the feet are the furthest apart from each other, lowering the entire upper body. The heel of the falling behind foot is lifted because it's about to step forward. You may find the foreshortening of the arms and legs tricky at a front view, and I think the best advice I have for that is to not overthink it. Most important is that when a limb is angled forward or back, it looks shorter. The hand on a forward swinging arm can also overlap in front of the body, making the swing forward extra clear and giving the motion of the hands a natural curve around the body. This is an optional thing, but at this point I've gone back to the first frame of the front view and added a very slight upper torso and head tilt towards the direction of the grounded leg. The person is leaning into that leg, putting their weight on it. This lean needs to be extremely subtle. A little will go a long way and can easily become excessive. The second keyframe should stay without any lean of the body, as perfectly upright as you can make it. I add 2 more frames after this, and those are flipped versions of the first 2. For a front or back view, this step is easy because you can just duplicate the first 2 frames and flip them horizontally. For any other angle, I'll still copy the first 2 frames and then erase and redraw everything except for the unchanging parts like the head, so that details such as the height will be consistent. Play your animation and check for anything that doesn't look natural. With only 4 frames, making adjustments is pretty easy. Make sure that the arms and legs appear to step or swing the same distance as the other, and if you're using a head lean, check that the head is in the same place in frames 2 and 4. For me, it was a bit off, so I just grabbed the head in the 4th frame and positioned it over the 2nd frame's onion skin. That made this motion look a lot better. Once you're happy with what you see, you can move on to adding more frames between these first 4. However many in-betweens you add is up to you and what speed and frame rate you're going for. My frame rate is pretty low, so I'm just adding 4 additional frames, 1 for each gap. For the most part, you can use even spacing between each frame, but there are some parts of the body that I want to slow down in certain moments. I've put the head here very close to its position where it reaches its lowest point because I want it to slow down and settle into that spot. The other thing I want to slow down is the hands when they finish a swing. See here that I put this hand much closer to where it reaches the end of the swing than where it's in the middle of the swing. Drag is an important animation principle for this. The shoulder joint controls the swing of the arm and is attached to and directly affecting the upper arm. The forearm and hand will drag behind. The upper arm might change direction while the hand still goes the same way for another frame or 2, always just a bit behind. The feet step forward relatively quickly once they lift off of the ground, so for this in-between, I jumped ahead to having it already hovering over where it's about to step down. Here's the animation with all 8 frames. Any loose clothing and hair on the character will bounce and drag with the motion. These big sleeves are pulled along by the arms, so how they look in each frame depends on which way the arm is swinging. Hair is typically a light material and is dragged around by the head. This means that when the head goes down, the hair lifts up and back, and vice versa. From the front, I like the look of the hair swinging side to side with the tilt of the head, once again dragging behind the movement. Now the motion is all done, so I cleaned this up, added color, and it's finished. This is a pretty standard looking walk, but you aren't limited to that. A person can be characterized really well by how they walk, affected by things like mood and personality. Reference is helpful for figuring out how a unique walk cycle should look, so here's a video on that. Thank you to my supporters on Patreon, and thanks for watching.